Hi everyone, and hi Betty. Betty, look at that. What do you have there?
My doll.
Your doll. What's your doll's name?
Bailey.
Bailey? I love Bailey. Bailey looks really happy. Is Bailey fun?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know what also, though, I noticed is that here you are, and it looks like we're in a different place today, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Where are we today? We are, let's look back there. We are at, I don't know, it's kind of like we're at...
I think we're in Hawaii.
Hawaii, okay. Well,
Yeah.
we're in Hawaii.
We went to the airport and we got to Hawaii. We were gonna go to a different place, but the captain said that we're going to Hawaii.
Oh, you know, so the captain says Hawaii? Oh, my goodness. Well, that's interesting because today we're going to Jericho, but we're going to go to Hawaii and Jericho. What do you think about that? That just amazes me. But I'll tell you what, even though this is my cool Jericho, no, it's not. It's my cool Hawaiian.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to take it off. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah,
We're in Hawaii. Okay. Aloha.
Actually, we're in the plane.
Oh, I see
And
that.
then they put this back here. Actually, we were gonna go to Hawaii, but then coronavirus came.
You know, so many people can't go. I wonder what would have happened. Would that have meant that the Israelites wouldn't have been able to go to Jericho? It's just a difficult thing, isn't it? So we got to figure it out. But you know what happened? When you came to see us.
We're not in Hawaii.
No, we're not?
And we're not in a plane.
Well,
We're in your backyard.
oh, okay. This is our backyard. Okay. Oh, I see it now. Is
and
it still?
this is hey.
Is it still fun though?
Yes.
Okay, it's still fun. In fact, I think you have some other things there we can look at that are up there. I think that up there I can see. Oh yeah, look at that. Is that a mountain?
No, I think that's the sea.
Okay, well I think we're having fun with it. Now the other thing that made me happy though is when you came, what you did. You brought something this week, and I was so excited when I saw that you brought something. What did you bring with you this week?
A Bible.
A Bible. What's it called? Which Bible is it called?
Precious Princess Bible.
Precious Princess Bible. Now, why do you think it's called that? What does it have inside? Anything special? Okay.
Oh no, wait, it shouldn't.
That's all right. That's all right. You know what? It's okay. Now, what's inside that? I know it's the Word of God, so that's true, but it has other things in it that makes it called Princess Bible. Let's see. What's it say? That's a picture of a princess. What's it say there? Can you read that?
It says a princess loves.
Okay. Okay, and what's that one say?
A princess is gentle and patient.
But you know what it says right here? It says that it says so in the book of Ephesians. So read to us why this picture goes with that.
Don't be proud at all. Be completely gentle. Be patient. Put up with one another in love.
Oh my goodness, I love that because that's what we're supposed to do. We're patient with one another in a good family, aren't we?
Mm-hmm.
Happy families are patient and, oh, what else? Is it hot out here?
Yes.
So what's that all about? Okay, so you get to mist yourself.
Oh no, it might get.
While you're misting, let's figure out what we're looking at this week because it says to me here, this is chapter number which one? Look and see.
The sin of
Yeah, but the number.
17.
Yeah, number 17. The sin of Ackerman and what came of it. This is from the book of Joshua, chapters 5 through 9. Yeah. After, is it okay? Well, that's all right. You know what? We're going to pretend that it's from the River Jordan.
Yeah.
Okay. So, after the Jews had all crossed over the Jordan, they pitched camp on the western shore of the river, and they began to get ready to conquer the land that God had promised them. When the Israelites had escaped from Egypt and had received the law of Mount Sinai under Moses, they had all been circumcised as a sign of their membership in the covenant community. But all these folks were now dead, and a new generation had grown up, a generation that had been born in the desert and had not known slavery in Egypt. During the years of wandering in the desert, the children had not been circumcised. So Joshua had them all circumcised there by the Jordan as a sign of the covenant of God. It's interesting because circumcision is a sign of the old agreement, the old covenant, the old contract. And it's in the River Jordan that this took place with Joshua. But years later, it would be in the River Jordan that the new covenant would be seen, because somebody was going to be baptized in the River Jordan. And who was baptized in the River Jordan but Jesus?
It's windy.
Is it windy?
Yeah.
It's okay.
What?
Yeah, so in the River Jordan, Jesus was baptized many years later, just like the children of Israel had been circumcised in the River Jordan in our story for today. So they celebrated also the Passover feast because they were there for the feast of the Passover, which for them was still kind of a memory for some of the old timers. The young ones kept on being told the story about how the angel of death had passed over, and now they had to get out of town quickly so that they could make their way into the promised land. And the manna they had eaten for all those years ceased, and they lived from then on off the produce of the land of Canaan. Joshua had a vision of an angel who told him that he was the captain of the armies of the Lord and gave Joshua instructions for the campaign. The first city that the Jews attacked was Jericho. According to the instructions that Joshua received, the whole army marched around the city. Marching around the city. And at the head of the army went the priests carrying the Ark of the Covenant. You may remember they carried that with them through the wilderness. And also 7 trumpets of a ram's horn. So tell me what a trumpet might sound like, and pretend that you're holding a trumpet. What would it be like? Did you go to New Orleans?
Yeah.
Well, what did you do in New Orleans?
Well, we went to places, stores, like witch stores.
But I think I saw you holding something.
Oh, yeah. So we went to a place called House of Blues.
House of Blues.
And it's this restaurant where people can play music.
So at the House of Blues, this restaurant, people can play music.
And there's in the front, like there's this little area where you can where you can take a picture. And then there was a real trumpet that was kind of old. And I was the one who was like.
Oh, that's why you look like you're playing the trumpet. But
yeah, when you look at the picture, it looks like I'm actually playing it.
But because you didn't let your lips touch the trumpet, did you? Because you were keeping good distance. Well, Josh,
It was right before the coronavirus.
Was it? So it was before.
Yeah.
But it was safe. Joshua had ordered the people not to shout and holler, but only that the horn should be blown by the priests. Imagine what it looked like from the walls of Jericho, where the defenders were lined up waiting for the attack. Just this whole army of people marching round and round, slowly, silently, not making a sound, not even looking toward the city, with the only sound being the mournful, hollow tooting of the ram's horn trumpets. Do it again, please. Don't you know it was spooky? They did this the next day and the next day and the next for 6 days. They kept on walking around slowly in the walls, and once around the city and then back to the camp for 6 straight days. Then God told Joshua that the whole city was to be a sacrifice and to be totally destroyed, and that not any of the loot was to be kept by any of the Jews for their own use. Only Rahab, remember her from last week, and her family were to be saved because she had been so kind to the two spies. On the seventh morning, they did as they had all week. The army lined up and marched around the city, but this time they went around the city 7 times. And after the 7th time, with the army completely encircling the city, the priests blew the trumpets and everybody shouted at the top of their lungs. So sit forward, looking in there, pretending with your trumpet, and play the trumpet for everybody. Yep. And the city walls began to crumble and they fell down flat, dumping the defenders down among the debris. Before they knew what was happening, the Jewish army attacked, every man running straight before him to the point right in front of him, coming at the city from all sides, and they captured the city. They stopped blowing their trumpets and destroyed everybody and everything in it. All but Rahab and her family, who joined up with the Jews and lived with them from then on. Joshua ordered the city to be burned and everything in it. Well, sir, taking Jericho was so easy, it seemed like something and everything was going to be peaches and cream from then on. However, that is not the way it all worked out.
Wait, why are they doing this?
Well, because I think, let's think about it. Why do people get into battles sometimes?
Maybe because they stole something.
Sometimes.
Like something very precious that the whole town needs to keep their community better.
That's true, to keep the community better. They hold everything together, and maybe something was stolen. And of course, one of the things that they were concerned about was, remember what the Israelites had carried through the wilderness. They carried the Ark of the Covenant. And what happened is, we need to make sure that everybody understood how important the Ark of the Covenant was. Well, God had told Joshua, and Joshua had explicitly told the people, that they were not to keep any of the loot from Jericho for themselves. Back to what you were talking about, with holding on to the stuff. But a guy named Ackerman, well, let's tell the way it happened. You see, about the only place where you could conveniently cross the Jordan River was at the ford near Jericho. And by the way, I have walked across that many, many times. Did you know that? Yeah, I have. And your Uncle Keith, and your Aunt Renee, and of course your Nana many times, because Nana is the one that makes sure that all these things work perfectly. And so that means your Nana, your Mommy, your Uncle Keith, your Aunt Renee have all been together here in Jericho. And we saw the walls that fell down. We did. And we also saw the great food that they have there, because Jericho is such a really cool place. Well, some of the Jews had already settled in the country to the east of the Jordan, and they were farming and ranching there. The army was planning to go further inland from the river to conquer the country, and there would, of course, be much passing back and forth across the river. Joshua knew he had to secure and hold the river crossing, or risk being cut off from his base of supplies. That was the military reason that Jericho had to be destroyed. See, that's back to the question. That was the military reason it had to be destroyed. They couldn't risk having that strong fortified city sitting there at the river crossing, and they couldn't afford to leave troops behind to garrison it, so it had to go. Now, there was one other town that threatened the river crossing, a little village up the river a few miles called Ai. It's spelled A-I in English, but it's pronounced Ai. It was so small that Joshua didn't think it was necessary to send the whole army back to attack it. So he sent only a single regiment. After a while, his soldiers came straggling back with the story that they had taken a terrific licking. And Joshua knew that something was really, really wrong somewhere, because God had promised them victory over their enemies, and here they were getting defeated. So he said to himself, I'll bet my head that somebody disobeyed God and kept back for himself some of the loot from Jericho. Remember what Joshua said? No loot, don't keep it. And God spoke to Joshua and said, that's right. That's just what happened. Joshua fell on his face on the ground before the Ark of the Covenant and said, God, what in the world do I do now? God answered, you can get up now. Call everybody together in the morning and find the culprit and get rid of it. I'm not going to come back anywhere in the vicinity of your camp until every trace of that Jericho loot is destroyed. You're going to learn to obey me, or I'm just not going to have anything to do with you anymore. Well, Joshua called everybody together the next morning and searched through the tents, and that's when they found the guy, Ackerman. He had found a brand new suit of clothes in the latest fashion for Babylonia, a pocketbook containing $200, and a brick of solid gold in a house in Jericho, and had sneaked off and hid it in his tent. So the Jews took Ackerman and the members of his family and his cattle and all his belongings, and they put everybody to death. Yep, they did. They burned up the new suit of clothes, buried the money, and piled up a huge heap of stones over their graves. Pretty rough treatment. But I guess in time of war, you have to have discipline, and Ackerman had been pretty antisocial, you know. After that, they were ready to go and fight against Ai again, but because they had been licked once, they weren't so cocky. And this time they took the whole army. Joshua divided the army into two parts and sent one half of them on ahead and told them to go by night and bivouac, that means in camp, get together, in the woods on the far side of Ai. The next morning, Joshua and the rest of the army attacked the town. They didn't attack very hard, however, and the soldiers of Ai made bold by having defeated the Jews once before, sallied out of town to counterattack the Jews under Joshua. Joshua and half of the army made like they were afraid and ran away crazy-like from the soldiers of Ai. The soldiers of Ai chased after them, leaving their town undefended. After this, the half of the army that had been hiding in the woods entered the city and set it on fire. When the soldiers of Ai looked back over their shoulders and saw their town on fire, they got into a panic. And Joshua and his troops turned and attacked again. The troops in the city came and attacked the folk of Ai from the rear, and the Jews won a terrific battle and a victory. And and they felt right here, right there. And they felt pretty good again, like maybe God was going to be with them after all. This time, God allowed the Jews to keep the spoils of the city for their own use, and Joshua built an altar and offered sacrifices. Now I'm going to slip an idea in here for you.
Wait, I have a
Go ahead with a question.
Why did they, wait, so they killed a family?
Yeah.
Why?
Well, it's because the people were being bad. Now, they weren't listening to God and obeying God. And I think you know that I am a really peaceful kind of guy. And so sometimes I don't understand some of these things, but I read them and I read them and I try to understand what it is that God was having to do to protect his people. And there you have it. A lot of cars in Jericho?
No.
Oh, there, okay. No cars in Jericho right now. No. Are there any in Hawaii? Let me look. I don't see any right now.
But I think it actually in Hawaii,
I think that's right. I think that's probably right. So then what happens is, after this, half the army, as I said, were hiding out. When the soldiers of Ai looked back over their shoulders and saw their town on fire, they got into a panic, and Joshua and his troops turned and attacked again. The troops in the city came and attacked the folk of Ai from the rear, and the Jews won a terrific victory and felt pretty good again, like maybe God was going to be with them after all. This time, God allowed the Jews to keep the spoils, as I told you, of the city for their own use, and Joshua built an altar and offered sacrifices. Now let me tell you, the name Joshua is another way of saying it in Hebrew, Yeshua. And you know what the Greek word for Yeshua is? Jesus. So Joshua and Jesus have the same name. Once more he called all the people together and read to them out of the books of the law that Moses had given them. And everybody sort of renewed their promise to God to obey the law and to keep God's commandments. No more of this Achan stuff for them. Word got around. The Jews had licked King Sihon and King Og over the east of the Jordan, and they licked the Moabites and the Midianites, and had captured Jericho and Ai. The kings of the land of Canaan called a meeting and made an alliance with one another to fight against the Jews.
What does licked and licking?
That's a good question. And Father Rogers used this term because I think everybody knew what that meant then, but here's what it means.
I know what, like, I know what, like,
That's licking.
licking.
Yeah.
I
Well,
know a lot, licking a lot.
yep. There used to be a commercial about a watch that kept on ticking. And even though it was beat up and took a licking, it kept ticking. And so what that means is, licking means like being beat up. Okay. But you can't taste it. All right. And so the kings of the land of Canaan called a meeting and made an alliance with one another to fight against the Jews, and began gathering together a big army, a lot of war supplies and such stuff. But the next towns in front of the Jews, hidden just a few miles away over a range of hills, figured they didn't have a chance. They knew they were next on the list, so they decided they'd make an alliance with the Jews. They sent ambassadors to Joshua, and the ambassadors put on old clothes and worn out shoes. And when they came to Joshua and he asked them where they were from, they said, "We're from away, far away." See how shoes are all worn out? We've traveled so far. You think that was true? Okay. They said, "We've heard how God has been with you ever since you left Egypt, and how you've licked everybody." Let's say that again. How you, or beat them up.
Yeah.
Okay.
But if he actually did that, imagine if he actually licked everybody.
Then I would say that's not appropriate social distancing. And we want to be your allies or your friends and even your servants if we have to. Joshua was fooled by this clever trick. And he made a solemn agreement with the ambassadors and promised to be friends with their country folk. And when the guys told Joshua their cities were not really far away, but only just over the hill, Joshua was pretty angry at having been taken in that way. But he had promised, so there wasn't much he could do about it because he did not break his promise. The rank and file, that means the people, most of the people in the Jewish army who had enjoyed the loot from Ai were kind of disappointed, and they were annoyed with Joshua. Joshua said to the ambassadors, "Okay, you win. We won't attack your cities. But you said you wanted to be our allies or even our servants. Okay, you can be our servants." Whoa. The ambassadors were tickled to death with their bargain.
Really?
Yep, now that's another one. What do you think about being tickled to death?
Oh, I thought really like tickled to death.
I know, you mean like this? If I did a lot of that, would... Okay.
Imagine it. And
Yeah.
they would, and I thought them like tickle,
I know. But do you remember...
And then they.
Do you remember what your great-grandfather said when people say Ray, are you ticklish? He said, no, I'm Swedish. So now we go and look and see that you don't get tickled to death, but it means that they were excited, and the Jews got themselves an ally and advanced further into the country without having to do any more fighting, at least not right away. The name of the principal city that became friends or allies with the Jews was Gibeon. And it was a good-sized city. And there were smaller cities too. I guess the folks of Gibeon... Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I guess the folks of Gibeon were happy they had made such a bargain.
Mm-hmm.
As it turned out, but that's another story.
Another story?
Mm-hmm.
Well, when should we do that?
I don't know. But that's not the last page.
No, so that means we better pick up when? Next week?
Yeah.
One
I
B?
think that might actually be another story.
Oh, another story? All right. This is so much fun, Betty. So I want to thank you so much. It was really fun. Thanks for bringing your Bible. You know, it's funny. If you want to have fun sometime when you go to people's houses, ask them where they keep their Bible. And where they keep their Bible may tell you something about what they think about the Word of God. Whoops.
Who's that?
That was somebody shocked by what I just said. Thanks, everybody. God bless you. And Betty, what do we say to our friends out there? Next week.
Next week
We
we'll
shall
be
see.
reading another chapter.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye bye.